Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to submit additional data about the bases and the offer for additional land from Allegheny County Airport Authority for the record as I talk. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, in particular Mr. Schuster, and thank him for his personal efforts on this issue. I thank you for your time and efforts in service to our nation's defense, our soldiers and military families, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with you the deep concerns Southwestern Pennsylvania has about Air Force plans to close the 9/11 Air Reserve Station, which houses C-130 Hercules transport planes, and the transfer of 4 KC-135 refueling tankers from the 171st Air National Guard Station. These facilities, which are located in Moon Township near Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania's 18th Congressional District, are both located at the Pittsburgh International Airport. The 9/11 and the 171st are two of the most accomplished, cost-effective, and decorated installations in the country. They possess unique value to our nation's military, and I fear the Pentagon is proceeding with an irreversible course that is misguided, misinformed, and mistaken. It's a present-day version of the $400 hammer and the $200 toilet seat. Cut in haste, pay in the long run. And over the past 2 months, I've been pushing the Air Force to provide documentation justifying these actions. The report which I recently received confirms what I have suspected all along. The Air Force is making a quick and easy decision rather than an economical one. They are doing what they think they can instead of what they should. The Air Force analysis relies on two flawed premises. First, they believe the 9/11 has the oldest and costliest C-130s, and indeed they do, but they were given those old C-130s when they took their newer planes from them. Number two, the decision to close the 9/11 doesn't require congressional approval, another flawed assumption. First, I said the 9/11 has older aircraft because the Air Force sent them off to combat, sent the new ones off to combat. They gave the 9/11 the older, high-maintenance models. Second, the Air Force falsely believes the 9/11 has fewer than 300 authorized personnel, which means that no congressional approval would be needed for the closure. However, that base actually has more than 300 civilian employees, but the Air Force is using different accounting methods for that. Now, I dispute the numbers of the Air Force, and I believe the 9/11 is a victim of its own success. Should also note that by sharing expenses with nearby bases and the Pittsburgh International Airport, the 9/11 has fewer personnel for the low cost of $20,000 per year. The Pittsburgh Airport, which has 4 10,000-foot runways, takes care of snow removal, fire and safety security, and control tower, all given to the air base at next to nothing charges. By sharing all these expenses and by having fewer personnel, the irony is that if the 9/11 was less efficient and costlier to operate, the Pentagon wouldn't have the power to close it. Ironically, as I say, the airport authority did not offer those, if the airport authority did not offer those personnel, it would cost the U.S. Air Force about $40 million over 10 years instead of $200,000 over 10 years. And there you have your $400 hammer again. I am confident that once you review the data, I have seen you, I'm sure you will agree that these bases must remain fully operational. First, a little background. The 9/11 and the 171st are highly decorated. Now stop and think also, a base called 9/11. Few dates are etched in the minds of Americans with more patriotic emotion than 9/11. Imagine other places such as Pearl Harbor, Valley Forge, or Gettysburg being cited for dismantling. I also should say the 171st was handpicked to serve as a lead unit for combat support missions enforcing the Libyan no-fly zone. The 171st executed more mission hours in the last 2 years and had the lowest total non-mission capable rate for maintenance among all KC-130 Guard units. It would be like an NFL coach being told to cut its roster by removing the first string so they can save some money. But beyond the accolades are strategic reasons why these bases must remain open. The 9/11 and the 171st offer joint training with other units and regular work with local emergency responders and federal law enforcement. As part of the military disaster preparedness responsibilities, few places have the assets of Pittsburgh, which is located within 2 hours flying time of 70% of the U.S. population. And the region's world-class medical system offers a unique combination of supportive operations and a readily accessible airlift. This is included in the National Disaster Medical System, which trains doctors and nurses to respond to disaster-stricken zones and therefore be ready if problems should happen again of an attack from terrorists. End strength of both bases is extremely high because commanders recruit from a unique talent pool trained in working in commercial aviation, and it's one of the highest recruiting units. I'm deeply worried that these structural changes will cost the Air Force a great deal more. And for all these reasons, the Pentagon is making sizable investments. I should say they spent more than $58 million in the last 5 years on new buildings, some yet to reopen, new security gates, new medical facilities, and newly rehabbed buildings. I'm troubled that they're relying on faulty assumptions about the acreage. The Air Force says the 9/11 can't house any more than 10 C-130 aircraft. This is untrue, and has been offered additional space from the County Airport Authority of 20 acres so they can go up to 20 more airports.
Gentleman's time has expired, and without objection, your full statement will be included in the record.
Thank you.
I especially like your analogy of getting rid of the first string on any professional team to save money. That looks to me exactly like what we're going to be doing with our defense. Mr. Schuster.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have grave concerns about closing 9/11 also, and just a couple of questions for Mr. Murphy. I was out there and visited. I want to make sure that we stress here, and maybe you can just talk a little bit about the jointness out there and what's coming, because I don't know if you mentioned that in your testimony. The Navy's building there now.
The Navy is about to break ground, a new facility. They're going to invest about $14 million. That was also meant to share costs with the 9/11 base and reduce their costs. They also have a joint training facility of a gun range. There also is a new commissary being built, a defense commissary agency, about to spend $17 million on that, a new exchange out there as well. So all these investments are taking place at a tune of close to $100 million.
And the Marines are considering moving out there?
Marines are considering moving out there too, because as the Navy closes their base, the Marines are considering a great joint forces training opportunity.
And not only is this jointness which we should be promoting, but we should also, the Department of Defense needs to realize they're not doing these in a vacuum. They're part of the U.S. government, and there are other agencies, the U.S. Marshals, if I'm not mistaken, they're looking at moving back there. It's going to save us a tremendous amount of money by taking other government agencies, locating on a secure military base where they can do their functions, and save us money by not having to secure buildings. Are there other agencies that are looking to move there?
Well, the Air Marshals are considering it. We also know that the Air Force has not done a cost comparison, and this is where your committee can have valuable impact. They talked about moving these planes and therefore saving money. Well, those planes are going to be moved anywhere. But to compare the Pittsburgh Airport, where they get 4 10,000-foot runways and all these other things for $20,000 a year, versus other bases where the Air Force has to provide all the costs, it's just a ridiculous lack of accounting.
It says bargain all over it, and that's what we have to be looking for as we're saving money. And as you mentioned, 4 10,000-foot runways, $20,000, and they can house 20 planes there without any.
My Rotary Club can do a fundraiser and cover that cost.
So exactly. Well, I thank the gentleman for being here and advocating for 9/11, and yield back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll certainly look into this as we move forward.